So anyway, that's the last time I asked my doctor to smell my hands. So we had to get a new doctor after that. But yeah, it's how are you doing today?
Oh, Trent, it is a beautiful, smoky, hot morning in Edmonton, Alberta.
Nice.
But we're 6 days away from opening night. How I couldn't be better.
Is it affecting your voice at all? Because
It is
Hedwig, there's
actually.
a lot of singing.
Yeah, well, if you're familiar with Hedwig and the Angry Inch, it is a rock concert,
Yeah.
and the demand is on Hedwig with the backup singers, of course.
Mhm.
Um, and a little bit, it's good because it's putting me in that rock star sort of place. I'm not a smoker, so it's like nature is like, here, I'll help you out a little bit.
We'll do all the smoking for you.
Yeah,
Your lungs are great.
you need this. But we were sharing at rehearsal last night that all of us are sort of now feeling it, and it's like, is it okay for me to clear my throat on stage? Because I'm just hoping that audiences come, and even though we've transported them to this new world, that they remember that there are environmental issues going on outside the theater
Yeah.
that might be affecting the performers a little bit.
Your half of your audience is probably trying to hold in a cough anyway. So
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah. Isn't it weird now though? Like if you live in, we're in a pandemic with a lung uh, issue related uh, thing going on, and there's wildfire smoke everywhere.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's why I don't leave the house. I don't want anybody to see me cough. If
Well,
it's
we actually had a little bit of a scare the other day. So our musical director had gone to Pigeon Lake for the Pigeon Lake Music Festival,
okay,
and he came back and he said, I have a runny nose, I have a cough, I have a sore throat, and because we're now conditioned, we're like, oh no, COVID is happening. Um, Fortunately, he found out really quickly that he didn't have
oh,
COVID.
good,
But he
good.
realized that it was actually because he was outside for such a long period of time, and
Mhm.
because of the smoke, he was experiencing similar symptoms. And so, yeah, we're now all just like really panicked that, especially with it's kind of like this rebellious risk to be going forward with a show at the Fringe Festival this year,
Mhm.
because who knows what's happened. We're all panicked a little bit. We're like trying to control the anxiety, but for that to have come so close to home for that millisecond was, oh god, we've gone too far. But he's
It's
fine.
tense.
We're
He's
fine.
fine. Good,
Yeah,
but it must have been tense. That must have been really tense.
it was a good
Oh.
12 hours of, oh man.
So Hedwig and the Angry Inch, what are you bringing? Do you bring anything different, or are you just letting the awesomeness of it work itself? I know you're going to be involved, so there's always going to be that unique perspective. But
Yeah.
anything you're trying, anything new, or
So this is actually my third time stepping into Hedwig's heels. So
nice?
I actually played Hedwig back in 2015. It was this whirlwind thing that happened. Actually, another company was putting it on, and I was actually in rehearsals for my Fringe show at the time, which was Man Up.
Okay.
And I remember being on the street, and I saw the poster for Hedwig, and I was like, "How dare they give my role to somebody else?" But I am going to go and see that. And then the next day, I end up getting an email from a friend whose the subject line is, "Do you think you could play Hedwig?" And I literally stepped at the heels of Hedwig and learned the role in a week and went on stage with this other company. So that was insane.
What happened? Did the person get sick, or
They broke their leg, which is something that happens
oh,
to Hedwig, especially if they're not familiar with high heels.
oh
The
my gosh.
second time that I did it was back in 2019, and this is actually with the same cast and a lot of the same crew and band members that is in this current production. And
Oh, cool.
I just felt like the last time was like this crazy experience. It wasn't my production. I love this place so much. I want to go back, and I want to experience it. And it was interesting because that time it was almost like I was in the mindset that I had to prove that I could be Hedwig,
Oh
and
yeah.
so that definitely like informed things. And the decision to do Hedwig was actually really quick. I was like many performers, sitting at home in the middle of COVID, thinking, you know what, I'm never going to perform again. I'm
Yeah.
going to cry myself to sleep. I had started to do the masochistic thing of listening to the cast recording and just remember all of these moments.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, my musical director texts me and says, "Do you think you could pull off Hedwig?" And I was like, "We are going to make this happen."
Yeah.
And so
That's serendipitous right there.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
and literally the day before, a friend that I had directed in another show had messaged me and said, "Do you think I'll ever perform again?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know, probably not." And then this message comes in,
Yeah.
uh, and so it was really fast. We had to get the rights. We had to like make sure that everyone was on board because there was no way that we are going to pull off the show without the same people coming to the
Mhm.
table. So we had to make sure that we had the same cast, most of the same band, the same crew coming back. But in the first rehearsal, I went in and realized that I didn't want to recreate what we did in 2019.
Mhm.
You kind of have to let it go. Like, it's live theater, it was a thing, and trying to recreate it, that'll put us all out of the energy of the play,
Mhm.
because we'll be thinking about what we did. And the other interesting thing is that Hedwig, if you're familiar with it, it removes the fourth wall. Like,
Mhm.
you are at a rock concert,
Mhm.
and the reason that Hedwig is in this venue is because for some strange reason it has now become available. And like when they did it on Broadway, Hurt Locker the musical was playing. It closed at intermission. All of a sudden, the venue's available. And so we're actually in this really interesting place where we very much could be the first post-COVID Hedwig and the Angry Inch, which then allows the cast and the crew to figure out why Hedwig is performing post-COVID,
Yeah.
why how she feels about it, uh, what jokes we could tell that
Yeah.
will totally piss off people, even though that is kind of the point.
Yeah.
um, and so that's been exciting. And the other part of it was just knowing that the prior two experiences are now gone. What are we now going to say with this? What are we now
Ah.
going to create? Why are we revisiting this
Mhm.
as a cast?
It sounds like you're owning it now and giving yourself the freedom to do what you want to do by not repeating the past. Not that the past is a bad thing, but you do learn from it. And with that said, people are starting to re-identify with the outside world now. They're coming. A lot of people went through a lot. I know I did, especially like personally. I still am. And a lot of people are coming out and not re-identifying themselves, but just trying to figure out who they are, like you said, in this post or near the end COVID world. So that sounds very interesting and a very unique perspective on, especially a character like Hedwig,
Hmm.
because it's iconic. They're
Yeah,
iconic, and a lot of people already have an idea of who she is.
yeah.
But for you to have played her a couple of times prior, do you see an evolution of your character?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hedwig is fascinating because Hedwig and the Angry Inch, even though it seems like 50% of the people that I talk to have no idea what I'm talking about. They think I'm doing like some weird Harry
It's a
Potter.
worm show.
Well,
It's like that caterpillar show with the worms.
yeah, well, they honestly think that I'm like doing like Harry Potter fanfic, like his pet owl, and it's like, no, no,
No.
this is it's not like uh, and then some people are like, oh well, I love drag, and it's like, oh, it's kind of drag.
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
in drag. You're not coming for RuPaul's Drag Race. Like, this is a different show.
Yeah.
And then the other 50% of the audience is completely aware with it, and they
Mhm.
are die-hard fans, and they are coming and they have their ideas of what Hedwig is. They're like me. They've studied it for the past 20 years. They're
Mhm.
tattooed with it. Like, they love Hedwig.
Mhm.
And so that puts us in an interesting place where it is kind of like, okay, this is some people's first experiences.
Mhm.
And I remember being in the audience the first time that I saw Hedwig and not knowing at all what was going on. And I was like,
Mhm.
well, I like the songs. And then 20 years later, being still like diving in. And what's interesting is that Hedwig, you kind of have to let go of reality to like
Mhm.
buy into her at this point, because mathematically, if we're going realistically, Hedwig would be 61 years old at this point.
Yeah. Oh my
And,
gosh, that's right.
yeah, and
Yeah.
there's a very specific reference to the Berlin Wall that you can't get rid of. Like, that is
Yeah.
part of the Hedwig story. So 2021, we're post COVID. Um, so you're holding it, like, do your best not to hold on to the reality of it, and maybe start looking for the metaphor. But what's interesting about Hedwig is that even though we've been diving into this, now this is my third production of it. Um, she keeps on teaching me something new.
Mm.
Um, the reason that I have her tattooed on my body is because she taught me as a young gay man to love myself,
Mm.
which was huge. Um, and that is why this show is so important to me. But now it's 2021. We're talking about gender. We're talking more about queer voices being silenced and what that means. And there's oftentimes these moments where I sit back and I wonder, did John Cameron Mitchell actually know what he was writing when he did this?
Yeah.
Or he's like adding layers down. He's like, oh, okay, cool interpretation.
I remember I had the same experience watching Hedwig, not knowing anything, really liked the music. But for me, I'm glad I didn't. Because I might have had a preconceived idea of what the show was.
Yeah.
And it would have ruined it.
Right.
It's like I've stopped reading. Like, I used to work at a video store, and when I wanted to watch a movie, I would just stop reading the backs of the movies, what they're about. I just put it in. Half the time I'd really enjoy it. But I know that if I read the back of it, I wouldn't have watched it. Not saying I wouldn't have watched Hedwig, but there's a part of me that thinks that people just need to experience things. They don't need to be talked into something.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which is ironic because Beer Tent Reviews, we're reviewing shows. I know we're advertising shows ostensibly, but so here's a final question though. Here it is. Someone's dad wants to go to the Fringe.
Yeah.
How do you explain it to them, the story, without explaining the story? What would be your short little elevator pitch to get someone who maybe doesn't like theater, just to come and sit down and enjoy something that will touch them, but you don't want to scare them off?
Yeah, for sure. So as you say, dads, I'm like 40 now, so I'm like, is it my dad? Is he 60?
Well, I'm a dad, right?
Yeah,
so
I could be a dad, and it always shocked me.
Yeah. You got franchises all over the country.
So first thing that I would say is that it's a musical for people who don't like musicals.
Nice.
That's the first thing to walk away and to say. It's a rock concert. You are coming for an experience. The other thing that I would say is that I feel like that's the right place to start with a dad. I mean, they probably don't like musicals. They're probably like, why is this person breaking into song?
Is everybody else seeing this?
Yeah. The internal logic doesn't quite. But what I would say also is that, I mean, it's iconic. You will leave the theater and you will be moved, and it doesn't really matter what background you have as a person. The last time that we did this show at Evolution Wonder Lounge, we had people talking about how it changed their lives, and dads saying that they were crying because of it. Which, I mean, I'm always thinking, well, a dad will feel weirded out about a drag queen, but no, like there's so much heart to it.
Yeah, and that's the sort of, I'm glad you said it, because that's what I was hoping that you would say, because a good story, no matter what the story is, will invite people in and become accessible to them. And that's what I found the most wonderful thing about Hedwig, is that it is bombastic, it's big, there are like really, really meaty, for lack of a better word, social constructs, and you're taking the deep dives, and there's no holds barred, blah blah blah. But really, it's a love story. If it's about a person, about themselves, accepting themselves, coming to terms, like you said, and all that stuff. So, is there anything that you wanted to add, maybe that I didn't ask? Anything you want to say that like don't sit in the two front rows or you get hit with blood or anything like that?
Well, we're being very cautious about some of the COVID restrictions. There's things that I allude to that prior COVID, this would be the moment in the show where I would provide you with a heavy metal gesture, and that is me literally spitting beer on the front row.
Yeah.
We're not going to do that. We're going to, remember it fondly.
You're going to drink the beer.
But what I think I'd like to share with everyone is that we joke about it, but like the gays do not go 50%. We are bringing Hedwig to this festival. You are going to see audio visual, you are going to like see a full band on stage, you are going to see me dance in heels. We are going to be belting out every song, and yeah, we are really coming into this and it's very possibly our last time doing Hedwig as a group, because we're all kind of parting ways after this. So we're bringing Hedwig to the Fringe.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time, Gregory. I really appreciate that.
Well, thanks for
And
having me, Brian.
this was wonderful. It's everything I could ever want. But yeah, and when I put this up online, I'll let you know. And yeah, thank you so much for taking this time to talk to me.
Yeah, thanks so much for doing this.
No problem. Have a good
Thanks.
day.
Bye.